Greetings again. We begin this course with Aristotle and kinetics. You see it differently. You see it on the back side. But so I will say a few words about Aristotle in general, and at the same time about the view he has on the good in the context of Greek philosophy. Aristotle was Plato's disciple. If you are familiar with philosophy, and I'm sure you all are, you at least with Plato. Plato was one of the first philosophers in the history of Western philosophy, at least. And his main problem, as the problem of the philosophers in that time, was the good life of a human being. This problem became important for Aristotle as well, even if, as a good student, he mainly believed that whatever Plato said was wrong. So, but not necessarily in ethics, although even in ethics he had some different understandings of what the good is. But if you consider Greek philosophy, as I mentioned, the main problem for them was how to understand the good life of a human being, how to understand happiness. What does it mean to be happy in life? And all of us try to be happy to an extent or another. But if you ask this question for a philosopher, the first thing is, well, I cannot respond to this question unless I understand what I mean by the good, what I mean by life, what I mean by the kind of thing that experiences this life. Because if I say what is a good life, period, I have to say, well, what is a good life for what? Do we talk about a human being? Well, what is a human being? How shall we understand the nature of a human being? What makes me and each one of you human beings? Because apparently, if we all call ourselves human beings, there is something in us, or there's something about us. If it's not necessarily in us, there's something about us that makes us human beings. Well, there's also something about cats that makes them cats. And certainly the life of a cat will be different than the life of a human being. And the good for a cat is different than the good for a human being. Probably for a cat, it's quite good if the cat catches a mouse every day. I'm guessing. I have no idea. I haven't been a cat. But that's not going to be good for me. It's actually going to be quite bad. All at the same time, if I try to live the life of a cat, I will be quite bad at it. I will not be able to catch mice. I will not be able to eat the kind of thing a cat eats. So, there are different definitions of the good. So a philosopher, coming back to this, a philosopher is trying to ask, first of all, what is a human being? Because I cannot respond to the question about ethics unless I understand the nature of me, of who I am. Now, I know that nowadays, we often say that the good is relative, that it depends on the person that you are asking, and so on, and which is true to an extent. But remember that it doesn't mean that it makes us completely different. I guess you all agree at least with one statement, and that is that we all have equal human dignity. And we all have equal human dignity because we are all the same kind of things. We are all human beings. So if that's the case, there is something good that refers to that human dignity, at least. It may well be, for example, that for me, it is good to read a Plato book or so on, and let's change the topic. Actually, for me, it's going to be good if I play a soccer game every day. Whew, it's going to be a good life. For you, it may be wonderful if you play a football game every day. Or it may be wonderful if you play tennis, or if you do some other things. I do not know, go shopping, or whatever you do in your life. Or if you're going to be good if you can embrace your child every day. It's going to be good if you have something that you miss dearly, and so on, right? So there are different goods like that. However, there is something that has to be applicable to each one of us as long as we all call ourselves human beings. That means that in our class we will discuss from time to time the nature of human beings, because it's going to be impossible to discuss about the good unless we understand the kind of thing that we are. So Aristotle, if you read the beginning of the book, Aristotle looks at those things as well. He says, well, first of all, there are some ends and there are some goods, and goods themselves are not always ends. For example, if I have a purpose, an end, if I want to get to London, it is good for me to take a plane. Taking a plane is a good, but it's not a good as an end The end is being in London, but is a good as means. Every time in life we engage in things that are good for us as ends, or they are good for us as means. The highest good for Aristotle is the one that is the end good, the one that the one for which we do all the other activities in life. That would be happiness. He calls this eudaimonia. And at the beginning of the book, in the first, in book one actually, he's trying to understand what would be the highest activity of a human being. What would make a human being happiest? What is the highest activity for any kind of human being? If you ask me, it's soccer, but let's forget about that. If you ask Aristotle, it's going to be something else. So when you read this text, try to analyze, try to see first of all how he distinguishes between ends and means, how he perceives the fact that the goods, which are means, are lower than the goods that are ends, because the means are always used for something else, and in certain conditions, the means are not good anymore, because, you know, taking a plane to London is not a good if I do not want to go to London, correct? Or buying a soccer ball is not good unless I want to play soccer. It's always about the condition. But other things, like playing soccer in itself, is good, regardless of whether I buy a ball or not. Or happiness, eudaimonia, for example. So look over the first chapter. There will be some questions online about that. And I look forward to reading your comments.